welcome to another episode of the Thumb Strong podcast. Today we're going to be talking about 6 things that you can stop doing in 2025 to help you achieve your goals. So obviously we talk about a lot about what you can start adding into your life and start doing to improve. So DeLorean had the awesome idea of talking about a few things that we might currently be doing that could be keeping our foot on the brake and keeping us from achieving our ultimate goals. So, Doran, if you want to kick it off with the first of our 6 things to stop doing.
Sure. And to me, it's the most important one because it's applying the most pressure to the brake and stopping us from reaching our goals or reaching our visions of where we want to be in the future. It's stopping us from getting there, and that's waiting for change and not making the change. Mm-hmm. So not being assertive or aggressive, taking those chances in life, because a lot of times we're slowed down because of fear, self-doubt, things like that. So there's a lot of negative things that come along with just going with the flow of life, you could say. You hear a lot of people say that all the time, just go with the flow kind of thing. Yeah. But I really don't like that, and I think that's really holding you back.
Yeah.
So getting out of your comfort zone and stepping forward and embracing change in a way, not just going with the flow.
Right. Something that I think about when I hear about that, when I read that, don't wait for change, make it. What I commonly hear the most is like, I need to wait until it's a better time. Mm-hmm. They're always too busy to do the things that they need to do that are going to move them toward their goals. Health and fitness related, it's I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to meal prep. They wait until they're less busy. They wait until job gets a little bit easier, right? They're always kicking that can down the road until all of a sudden years go by and they haven't done anything. So you can't just wait for things to happen. You've got to make them happen. So that's what I kind of think about when I read this. But
yeah, can you think back and for you too, is there a prominent change that you've made in your life, and we'll say in the past decade, that is 10 years that has pushed you forward, whether it's in your career, in your athletic, or your relationships, or anything like that? That is
100%.
Yeah. What is it for you?
Well, so one of the biggest changes that I made in my life took a 360 because I went from a college kid that basically, stayed up late. I lifted and then stuff like that, but my schedule was built around just going to class, working at GNC, hanging out with friends, partying, that kind of thing, staying up late. And then within a couple months, I moved home, started as a personal trainer. I was getting up at 4 a.m., going to bed early, training clients. So I literally shifted into that career, made that change because that was what I wanted to do. My vision and my goal was to be a trainer. And when I had the opportunity, I took action. I could have said, I want to finish my semester. I'm working at GNC. I don't want to leave my friends. But no, I I still had a lease on my apartment for 6 months. Mm-hmm. I was still going to classes. So I come home, I work 4 days training clients, go back to Saginaw, do my classes, work the weekend at GNC. I did that to finish the whole semester for 3 or 4 months. So about 7 days a week, I was working and doing classes and going back and forth. So that was a huge change that blossomed into what is now Thumb Health and Fitness, and there's nothing I wouldn't do. I would do it all over again, right? So that was a really big change for me that I didn't wait to take that opportunity. That's obviously led me toward my goals as a business owner, gym owner.
Yeah, and if you were passive about it, maybe it would have taken longer, or maybe it wouldn't have happened at all.
Wouldn't have happened at all, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're pretty good at that, being, I don't know the right word for it, but not passive, but I guess aggressive in jumping into new business opportunities.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh,
I said
100%.
wanting to change things and
being
ready to change.
Yeah, you're definitely not passive though. which is something that I struggle with a little bit, and that's something I need to work on.
Well, and something that you see with the most successful people is they've failed more times than they succeed, and that's why they succeed, because they try things. And so, yes, I jump in and I try a lot of things, and some things don't work out, but at the same time, you do find those things that do work out. And so, yeah, it's a good and a bad thing, but I don't know if I would necessarily change it, because
I don't think you can have the good without the bad.
right. No, you
Most
really
of the
can.
time.
Yeah.
What about you then? You haven't changed that?
Yeah, I mean, in the last 10 years, a lot has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago,
it's
like half your life going.
Yeah, I mean, I was 13 years old 10 years ago, so a lot has changed since I was 13.
Like 5 years then.
But yeah, like in the last 5 years, obviously, like I started off going to college at MSU and was there, full time, everything, lived in the dorms, and then college got shut down from COVID, got sent home, finished that semester there. So I had a year of college in, and then I'm like, okay, plan is to go back in the fall. That didn't happen. And then I started working at Hungry Howie's because that was like one of the only things that was open around here. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to make pizzas and deliver them to make money and go to school and just do that. Still stayed working out, though, all throughout COVID and through that time. And then something like I started coming here in October once I heard about, they do CrossFit down at TH Fitness. And I was like getting into CrossFit then. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's cool. Like I want to go and do that. And so I started coming here to work out, started working out with Taylor and Katie and Martin a little bit. And then ended up quitting my job at Hungry Howie's because all this management left and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I'll dip out soon. I'm going to be leaving to go back to college at some point anyways. Might as well just focus on my studies now. And then like come back here, and then I started talking to Taylor of like, okay, like if you guys are looking for anybody, and he's like, well, we'd like to add another trainer on. And I was like, I actually thought about getting my personal training certificate to be able to train people through college initially before all the COVID happened. And so I think in like 4 weeks I did my certification and then started training people. I think officially I started here, it was like December of 2020 into like January 2021.
What was cool, what meant a lot to me was, because a lot of people have come to me over the years saying, oh, I'd really like to be a trainer. Like, are you guys hiring or anything? Or like, can I learn from you? And I'm usually always very open to letting people come in and just like shadow us, stuff like that. But what stuck out was she would show up in shadow, whether that was 5 a.m., 6 a.m., or 7 p.m., that showed, well, she's really committed to this. And after shadowing for a while, shadowed for a while, got certified, and then started taking over some of the classes, and then starting her own classes. So yeah, that's a big change for sure.
Yeah,
it was not the direction that you thought you were going to go in either.
Was not the direction I planned on going. That's right.
It wasn't for me. I never ever dreamed of coming back home to be a personal trainer because I didn't think it was possible. I figured I would be personal training at some big box gym in the city somewhere. My original goal was to manage a GNC as I built up my clientele as a trainer until I got like full time. But then Ryan Pritchett opened this place up, and I immediately moved home and interned here actually. I did exactly what you had to do for me, the internship through Delta. And then I started full time right after that.
But I think most people in a personal training career path take that path that you were going to take originally, where maybe they work for like a bigger gym in the city or something, and they're like you were going to do. But following a crowd like that can be good, following that common path, the road that a lot of people travel on. But I think at the same time, it can almost stunt your growth. And you would have never known that this was possible if you wouldn't have taken the road less traveled.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So it's interesting that way.
Yeah. Just some resources on this before we go into the next one. We want to make sure we move through so we get through all 6. Atomic Habits by James Clear is a very, very good book. focuses on small, consistent changes rather than waiting for motivation. So that's the biggest thing is like we wait to be motivated, wait till we have more time, etc. So Atomic Habits helps you not wait to make any changes by starting small, which we always talk about, and building habits over time until all of a sudden you're doing exactly what you need to be doing to achieve your goals. The other one on here, which I have not read but was just a recommendation, was the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins, teaching simple trick to take action immediately.
Which is, I can go into that.
Yeah, you read it?
No, but I know what the concept
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
So the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins is when you have an idea or a thought to take an action of like, oh, you know what, I should do a workout. Within 5 seconds, you need to take an action because otherwise you start thinking of reasons not to do it. And it's like, oh, I should make a Facebook post. And it's like, you got to like give yourself 5 seconds and you got to make that decision of like, you got to start taking action in that moment. Otherwise, you're most likely not going to do it.
Yep. And Atomic Habits, an example, it's kind of related. So like a habit, if you want to start working out, the first little small habit you can do is set your workout clothes out the night before. Maybe you put it in a gym bag and put it by the front door. That way,
Is that from that book?
as you're going out, it's like, oh, I'm going to grab my gym bag. I can remember to do it.
I didn't know
That specific example, probably not.
No.
Oh,
But
okay.
the example of small habits
Yeah.
that lead you to the habit.
I read
is
that
like
book.
Making it easy, making it
Making
visible.
it easy, visible, simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to, start drinking more water, fill up this, put
Yeah.
it next to the coffee pot or the sink, whatever you do first thing in the morning. And it's like, oh, I got to drink my water. It's just something
Yeah.
that makes it easy. Yep.
Yeah. I remember I read that book in Mr. Lasecki's class in
It's
junior
that's
or
good.
senior year. But it was a very good book, but I don't remember a lot from it. I
Yeah.
You can read it
Reread
again.
it. Yeah.
reread it, yeah.
So actionable ideas, adopt the imperfect action mindset. So it says start messy and refine as you go. I could also say start small and slowly build up. Don't just expect to do everything you're supposed to do right away. Like for example, we hear people that, oh, I want to start getting healthy and fit, and they expect to work out 5 or 6 days a week and eat super, super clean. It's like, no, we need to slowly build you up, right? Set a 24-hour action rule. When you think of something you want to do, take one small step within that day. That kind of ties into a similar concept of the 5-second. And then the challenge for you guys is, what's one thing you've been waiting to start? Do it today, and just take a small action toward it right today. So that's our challenge for you. So each of these 6 things, we're gonna have a small challenge for you guys. Next one. You want to go into it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So the next one, number 2 out of the 6, is stop making assumptions. And I don't personally know the psychology behind why we make assumptions. I know it's part of like how our brain is wired. We naturally do that kind of thing. But I think it has to do with past experiences, emotions associated with different events or people, things like that. And a lot of times making assumptions can hurt relationships. It can hurt maybe with a spouse or maybe in the workplace or in a team. It can also stunt your personal growth by making assumptions about yourself.
Yep.
So when I first saw this, I honestly didn't go to that place of making assumptions about yourself. I was just thinking about other people or places or, you can make an assumption about anything, but
which we probably do make a lot of external assumptions, but we probably make more internal, such as like the problem is it says assumptions keep people stuck. They assume they're not fit enough to start. They assume people are judging them. They assume that things will always be just the way they are because that's who they are. Mm-hmm. And that usually keeps the foot on the brake.
Which kind of applies to the make the change, don't wait for the change, right? Mm-hmm. So you're assuming that, this probably isn't going to happen, so I'm not going to make this change, or like I'm not going to really pursue that because it's probably not going to work out anyways. You know what I mean? I'm not that fit, so I'm not going to sign up for the Open this year because I probably won't do that well.
Right. Yes.
So things like that.
Yep. What are your thoughts?
So your point earlier of why our brain makes assumptions.
Yeah.
Like when you're making assumptions about things, you're trying to predict the future. You're trying to predict what's happening, right?
Okay.
And so how is that useful to us? We can avoid bad things that are going to happen. And, I mean, the value of it is you can assume like, hey, if I go into that dark cave, is something going to eat me?
Mhm.
Right.
So it's kind of the
And
way we're wired.
it's the
We
way
are
we're
wired
wired.
Yes.
because of thousands of years ago.
Right.
It was
Oh,
a
sure.
survival mechanism, essentially.
And even with relations with people, like we've always been a very communal species, right? We've always had like a tribe or a community
Mhm.
that you center yourself around, right? And so the same thing even today is just you're making assumptions about what other people think about you because we're very social creatures. And so we're trying to figure out where we fit with everybody, what you can say around this person and not, and then like assume how one person's going to react versus the other. Different things like that. So that's where you can get into those overthinking loops that hold you back from taking action, right? Or thinking that they think this about me. They're assuming, like, if somebody's coming in, they make the assumption that, oh, I'm going to get judged at the gym because, I'm not very fit. And that's exactly, it's an assumption, but that doesn't mean that that's the truth.
Right.
It's a guess of like, I'm assuming this is what's going to happen when I go do this. Or I assume I'm not able to do this or not capable of doing this, or that this person's going to act in a certain way. But it's not the truth. It's just a guess.
Yeah.
You're just like, hey, I'm guessing that this is what's going to happen. And so instead of making the assumptions, work on like finding the truth.
Communicating
Yeah.
with each other.
Yep. Instead of just keeping it in your head, it's like, find out the truth. It's like, okay, actually go to the gym and see if they're judgmental. If they are, then it's like, oh shoot, I was right. And then maybe go to a different gym and then see if they're judgmental, right?
Yeah.
Or it's, oh, I don't think I can do that. Like, and you assume you can't do it, so you never do it. And it's like, oh, I don't think I can do that, but I'm going to try just to make sure I'm right or wrong, right? And it's like, oh, shoot, I could pick up 20 pounds. Great. Like, you could surprise yourself. But then you actually know. You're not just guessing, you know. And if it's not a life-threatening thing, it's okay. Like, it's not life-threatening to see, oh, can I do a pull-up or can't I? Instead of just assuming I can't do one of those.
Right.
What do you?
It's
what
like,
do you have
okay,
to
just hang
lose?
from the bar and try and pull yourself up. And if you can't do it, it's all right. It's like life goes on.
But they're
Don't assume you
assuming
can
that-
fly. Just don't. That's one thing. Don't be like, oh, I can't fly. Well, that's an assumption because I haven't tried. So let me try. And don't do that one. But things realistic.
Don't try it too high anyway.
Yeah.
Not too high, anyways.
Put your Nikes on.
I think
you'll be
we've
right.
all, as little kids, probably ran really fast through the yard with our arms out to try to fly.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Oh yeah. Or
Especially
like
if
jumping
you're
off certain
Jordans.
things.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Red Bull
Air
gives you
Jordans.
wings.
Yeah, there you go.
But
So don't ask before ask before you assume. So,
Right.
Don't ask.
yeah.
So actionable ideas with this. You just said it. Ask instead of assume. If you don't know something, seek clarity. Reframe self-doubt. When you catch yourself making a negative assumption, replace it with curiosity. And then the challenge for you guys, write down one assumption that you've made about yourself that might not be true. Now find proof that contradicts it. That's what Bethany was just talking about. Is like, I can't do a pull-up. I've never tried it, but I know I probably can't do it. It's like, go out and try it. Get proof that you can't. At least you'll know, and then you can take action toward, maybe I can move closer to being able to do it, right? So always just make sure that you find proof that contradicts it. Next one, set anti-goals before setting goals. So this one's interesting. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. So a lot of times when we're setting goals, right? Goals are things that you want to achieve, areas that you want to reach, things you want to complete or do. So like running a marathon, right? That's a goal. Now I'm going to set anti-goals to go along with my goal of running a marathon. And anti-goals are things that I'm not willing to sacrifice on the pursuit of achieving this goal. So for me, that would be during the pursuit of running a full marathon, I don't want to sacrifice my weekends more than, a couple hours, a few hours, or being completely exhausted to where I'm not spending quality time with my family or I'm not able to go out and have fun with my friends. I'm not willing to sacrifice my sleep. Is probably actually the number one thing. So that's important that I get my run in during the day and not at like, I don't put it off to like 9-10 o'clock at night, and then I'm not getting crap for sleep that night. Health injuries, like I'm not going to push myself to the point of pure exhaustion, or like actually 2 years, a year or two ago, I was training for the marathon, right? And unconsciously, I did kind of have an anti goal. I was training for the marathon and doing CrossFit at the same time, and I was getting to the point where I was way too exhausted. I was doing too much. I wasn't getting very good sleep. I had to go to the doctor because I thought something was wrong because I was just so tired all the time. And that was, for me, like the point where it's like, okay, like enough is enough. And I stopped training for the marathon. So now that I'm aware of it, I can set those anti-goals and plan around that. So that way I can still achieve my goal without sacrificing the things that are important to me.
So basically, you don't want to repeat what didn't work.
Exactly.
So you're learning from that past experience and saying, okay, how do I work around that next time so you can do the marathon? Right. And so instead of like, just setting a blind goal of like, I just want to run a marathon again, you've got these actual items of what you don't want to do and along the lines of what you do want to do. And so that can be tied into nutrition, right? So you're like, okay, I want to lose weight. And you set the same goal every year of like, I want to lose 20 pounds or something like that. And instead of just, setting the goal and working on eating better and all that kind of stuff, look back in the past years and past attempts and see what didn't work. And it's like, I lacked consistency, or I didn't have accountability for what I was doing. And that's why it didn't work last time. And it's like, okay, so then I should get accountability to help keep me consistent, right? And so that's how it makes it different the next time. If you don't learn from your failures, you don't grow.
Yep, exactly. And you can apply it to running a business too. So in your example, like I'm sure you probably, I know you have some anti-goals of the amount of time that you spend at work, saving time to spend with Katie, like your dinner or your weekends. Like, what are some of those for you? Because I know that you have a limit for yourself.
Well, like I don't want to be doing kind of work or business related tasks between typically 5:30 and 7:30. I don't want to be busy or doing anything around bedtime. Like we are always in bed by about 8 to 9 o'clock every night. That's to like save and so that I'm not exhausted. So like that, the example, like I don't want to be exhausted every day. So that's the anti-goal. So this leads to setting goals around sleep and recovery. So with that being said, I don't want to be exhausted every day. I want to show up, bring my best every day. That's one of our core values. So I have to make sure that I set barriers and boundaries of my day ends at this time and I'm in bed by this time for the most part every night, even on the weekends. So that's another thing is like, I don't want to be out late every single weekend. Because that leads to burnout during the week. A lot of people can relate. It's like if you stay up really late Saturday and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you kind of feel groggy and like crap. You don't catch up until maybe Thursday. So it's kind of, you have to make those sacrifices in order to achieve your actual goals. And the anti-goals help you actually work towards the goals. So it's like reverse engineering success, which is one of the actionable ideas. Identify what hasn't worked in the past, eliminate it, like Bethany said. Some helpful resources, The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan, focuses on defining what you want to avoid to stay in a state of progress. And then Tim Ferriss, Fear Setting Exercise, a way to flip goal setting by first identifying what you want to eliminate. So both of those are some books that you could read or resources. So I would start actionable ideas. What's one thing that you don't want in your life this year? Define the actions to avoid it. What's an example of one thing that you don't want in your life?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's tough. Or maybe that you don't want to feel.
That I don't want to feel.
Tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all could write that one.
Yeah.
So
Extreme overwhelm.
Yeah. So actions to avoid it. It's like having a
Yeah.
nighttime routine to
Ooh.
help you wind down.
here's a pretty good one, I think. I don't want to feel like I'm going through the motions. As in, I want to kind of live life on purpose, and I want to do something I enjoy, every week or every day. So I've actually made a goal this year, based on that. It's like I want to bring more enjoyment into my life. Like, I don't want to just coast through and not have any fun. So I am playing hockey on weekends. I might join the golf league this summer. And then obviously we have like camping trips and stuff like that, right? So some different things that I can do, activities with family, friends, that can make sure that I'm actually doing stuff outside of business related tasks and work that bring me joy.
Mhm.
That's important.
So
Yeah.
okay, move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right, this one's big.
Yeah. Number 4, stop being busy and start being productive. So I think there's definitely a difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah.
It's not hard for me to make myself busy every day. I can do a lot of different things to make myself busy, but being productive is a completely different thing. Being productive is working towards your goals, like we talked about before. Even if that's just something small, like I'm at work here, I'm cleaning the desk, or I can be really busy and walk around talking to people and chit chatting, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's not actually like something being accomplished necessarily.
Yeah, so I think it's most common in the workplace, but you can also apply it to fitness and health.
Yep.
Especially in the gym. I think a lot of times when people come in the gym, they're busy and not productive.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
yeah. So this is saying like the problem, people fill their schedules with things that feel productive but don't actually move them forward, which I think a lot of people definitely do. And when you think about a typical 8-hour workday, we all work 8, sometimes 10 or 12 hours, but how many of those hours are actually accomplishing a task, productive, and how much of it's like maybe it's chit-chatting with coworkers, or maybe you're playing solitaire on the computer at work, things like that. So it's actually identifying and figuring out, okay, am I being productive or am I just staying busy and running around and doing things, right?
Yeah. And this was a hard one for me because I was trying to think of an example, like in the workplace, besides completely like just being off task and being busy but not productive, like somebody who works in the office. I guess I imagine with being productive, you're working towards a common goal with the company. And so like the gym, right? So we're working on updating some of the things in the gym. We're currently creating some new programs, but I can also make myself busy by, I don't know. That's what I was struggling to think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have on that.
What are your
Yeah, go
ideas?
ahead.
There's, I forget the name of it, but there's a 4-quadrant thing where it's like there's urgent and important tasks, there's urgent and unimportant tasks, there's important but not urgent tasks, and then there's not important, not urgent tasks. It's like a 4-quadrant thing. And all your to-dos fit into one of those, or anything that you plan on doing in the day, or tasks that you do in the day. They're either urgent and important, which is like, okay, you want to get that done that day. It's urgent and you need to do it, right? And it's going to move you forward. It's actually important.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get stuck in the quadrant that's urgent but not important tasks. So like for a work example, somebody emails you something and it's it's maybe urgent to respond to it, or it's urgent to you want to take care of it, but it's not necessarily something that is important to what you're doing to try and like move the company forward.
Right.
Something like that. So that could be, the example I can think of as far as like our rebranding and stuff like that is, okay, say we all want to make some more workout programs and we put them in a trainer eyes, right? So you can spend all this time planning things out and writing things down and researching, but if you're not actually creating the stuff in trainer eyes, then you're not actually being productive.
Yeah, you could be busy. Maybe it's finding the right exercises, creating the right schedule, how many days are they going to train, all this stuff. But if you don't actually put it together and create a product, you're just busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you're putting it together, but it's not working.
Right.
Imagine that too. I think that can apply to that as well.
Yep.
You put the workout together for your client, but they're not seeing the results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like meetings. So a lot of people, they have a lot of meetings in their jobs, and half of them, it's like, this could have been settled in an email.
Yeah.
That's another thing. So I guess one of the tips there is like try to audit your daily schedule and remove things that don't contribute to those big goals, or things that waste your time. It's like, yeah, I don't want to spend any more time on this. And it's like, okay, how can I remove that, eliminate it, automate it, delegate it, something like that.
Okay, want to move on to the next
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, we'll go over the
Action.
actionable ideas. So
Oh, yeah.
prioritize the biggest task each day, kind of like what Bethany was just talking about. What's the most important and the most urgent? Start with that. So I always talk about like my journal here. I've got the 3 most important tasks that I want to accomplish every day at the top, and then I have other actionable things at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So after I complete those, then, like yesterday, for example, after I completed my most important tasks for the day, I come up here, and that's when I just mingle and chat with people, because it's important, but it's not like an urgent thing that I need to do all day long or first thing in the morning. I have other things that I want to get done, but if I get all my stuff done, I come up and do that. Plus, we're talking about like putting up something along the wall over there so it's not getting damaged. It's important. It's not very urgent. It's been like 9 years. That's not going to help people get better results. So it's not like it has to happen, but it could be cleaned up to look better.
Yeah.
The carpet, our beautiful orange carpet. Really want to get rid of it. Really want to update it to make the facility look better. It might make a difference on first impressions. We don't know for sure. It's important, not super urgent. We've made it this far. That's why it's still there. So when the time will come, eventually, it's not above and beyond some of the other things we're trying to do. Showers, another great one. Like, we've made it this far. Unfortunately, there's a few people that can't come to the facility because they can't shower. It's important. It's not super urgent. And honestly, it's just going to come down to where in the heck we're going to put the dang things.
The plumbing can handle it.
And getting a construction. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah.
So the action would be audit your schedule and remove 3 things that don't actually contribute to your goals or move you forward. So what are you spending time on that actually isn't very important or urgent is basically what it comes down to. So Number 5,
start seeking internal validation and stop seeking external validation.
This is a big one. Actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, internal validation I would describe as self-trust, self-acceptance, being proud of your own accomplishments, and not an external acceptance would be what other people validation, external validation
from other people
would be what other people think of you. And there's a lot of bad things that can come with external validation. Well, we've said it plenty of times before, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. So when you have internal validation, I think you're more likely to, especially when it comes to maybe physique or like your gym or your goals inside health and fitness, we're more likely to stick with it in the long run, because really what is more powerful between the two is internal validation.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
I 100% agree. I think you should do what fulfills you, instead of doing things that, might be accepted by others, type of thing. So, obviously, with relation to health and fitness, people see these influencers on Instagram and Facebook, and maybe they're skinny or fit, whatever, and they think that they have to look like that to feel good about themselves. When in reality, a lot of those people might not even feel good on the inside because they might be sacrificing a lot of things in their life, their relationships, things like that, like what we talked about earlier, like the anti goals. Whereas, we know people that they might not be necessarily at a fitness level, body composition, but they feel amazing. They're strong, they're confident, they're energetic. They get to do what they want. They can do all the activities they want, without having to sacrifice too many things. So there's so many different ways that we can think about this, but I think it just comes down to, what do you want, what's important to you, what fulfills you, and don't compare yourself to other people. We talk about that a lot in classes. Like, don't worry about what so and so is doing. Like, focus on what you can do and getting yourself better.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what somebody else can do, because we're all completely different. We have all different pros and cons. There's things that I can do that you can't do, and there's things that you can do that I can't do. So,
and when you rely so heavily on external sources of validation, it can totally have an effect on your mental health and like your state of mind. And for me, I can see people that their mood, like the way that they act, they're just like happier when they're like have that self-acceptance and self-trust in themselves, and like I'm awesome. You know what I mean? Like, nobody can tell me otherwise. I'm an animal.
Yep.
Yeah, to tie into the mind part of it, like for people that seek the external validation, right? And like that's where they get their source of value from, of like, other people think I'm good, so then that means I must be good. Because they, for themselves, they haven't found that in themselves to be able to tell themselves like, hey, you're good enough, right? And it's like, I hate just being like, oh, tell yourself you're enough, because that's not how it works. It's all these stories and everything, like with the mindset part of it that's happened, where you don't feel like you're good enough. So you have to seek validation externally, whether that is from fitness, looking a certain way, because that's where a lot of the influencers, like that's why they get into PEDs, and that's why they are at lean levels all the time, because they feel like they're not good enough on the end. I mean, don't know them personally, but I'm guessing if you get to the extreme levels of anything, you generally you don't feel good enough on the inside, so you need to do something externally to get validation from other people, of like, yeah, okay, these people are telling me I'm shredded, I look good, I'm getting all this external validation from social media, blah blah blah. Or like lifting extremely heavy weights, even if it sacrifices your body, right? So how many CrossFit Games athletes have like broken their back and have surgery and things like that? It's like, okay, so trying to be better than other people and that type of thing sacrifices your own body. And it's like, was that really, aligned with what you want and your desires? Or is that like making you feel unfulfilled and disconnected? If like, hey, if that's your big personal goals, but that's also still comparison against others to be a champion at something. Now, if you view it as, hey, I want to master this, and I want to become a master of this craft, or I want to be the best that I can be at this. When you focus it that way, you're not focusing on anyone else, because it's not comparing yourself to other people. It's comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. That's the comparison you're focusing on. You're not focusing on how do I get to that mastery level? And it's not of, hey, how can I go and win this competition, or how can I go and lift heavier than everybody else on the board? And, like that was a goal for a while. I was like, yeah, I want to have the heaviest bench in the gym for the girls, right? And it's like, yeah, I want all this kind of stuff. And then, you get humbled a few times of, some people are better at squatting than you, or some people are like, you get injured. Like when I broke my ankle, and I was like, oh shoot, I got all this value from being independent, not having to rely on people to like do things. And then all of a sudden I had to, because I couldn't do some things. Like I remember taking a bath, like after I broke my ankle, and like it was such a struggle. I was home alone, and I was such a struggle to like get in and out, and it was just like so frustrating.
Yeah, I bet.
And then like, you know, I'm seeing people on Instagram, like they're getting muscle up and stuff like that. And I was like, this just sent me so far behind everybody else. I was just like, I was so discouraged because I was like, my value comes from being a good athlete, or my value comes from being super, you know, strong or whatever. Right. And I'm like, that's not where the value comes from. And so having to rewire that and change, like, you know, my ego has come down quite a bit from like, I want to be the fittest, you know, whatever. I want to be the fittest and beat all these other people. Like my competitive nature has gone way down because I'm like, that's not what it's about. It's like, I should want to do good just to do good for myself and to be happy with the effort I put in and what I was capable of doing, not to beat somebody else. And so it changes.
Yeah, for sure.
It can be hard to
Good stuff.
switch over to that, trying to rely more on internal validation than external. It can be hard sometimes too.
Yeah.
I think when you're used to the other way.
Yeah. I think another great example that a lot of people can relate to is with fashion. Is
Fads.
people want to wear the, you know, the top of the line clothing and have the purses and all the jewelry and stuff like that to like get external validation from other people on how good they look and what and the car they drive, all that kind of stuff. Like a lot of people can relate to that. Just as another example, but actionable steps start with a daily self check-in. Ask, am I doing this because it aligns with my values or to impress other people? Social media detox is probably a good thing because this is where we see a lot of our comparison. Is spend a weekend off social media and see how it affects your mood. So just find some other things to do on the weekend. If we go camping, that's a really easy way. I mean, why do people go camping? It's because it literally makes us feel great. Like we're out in nature. We're usually not on our phones or watching TV. We're in the woods with family, communicating, socializing, having fires, you know, and that's why people love it. It's like, just do that more often. Like you can do that at home too, you know, and I'm guilty of not doing that as much as I should, but that's another great way. So the challenge would be make one decision this week purely for you without worrying about external opinions. So just do something for you, not for anybody else. Last one, stop living life on autopilot. So the problem is many people go through their days without intentionality, leading to lack of growth. They just kind of coast through life. That's what I was talking about in the very beginning. Is I don't want to just go through the motions. So all of a sudden 10 years goes by and I'm like, where in the heck did the time go? I have no closer to my goals or whatever that might be, right? Or I didn't accomplish the things I want to accomplish. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really easy to be on autopilot, I think, because it's the most comfortable mode to be in, especially when you're settled and you're content with your life, your relationships, how things are going. You know, things are going pretty good. We're just gonna coast it out, and you tend to get stagnant and start your growth then. So, like for you, for example, you're always trying to grow the gym with advertisements, additions, new equipment, new programs, level method. Like you could have just called it pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, but we don't do that. So
no, we don't do that.
We don't do that.
We don't do that here.
No.
That's one of our core values.
That's right.
It's growth oriented. You know, always learning, always growing.
Yeah, and you can apply that to everything.
Yep. I think when you do get to that autopilot complacent level, that's where time flies. You know what I mean? Like people always talk about, oh my God, like, you know, I just had my kid and all of a sudden he's graduating. Where'd the time go? So as you get into that routine of doing the same thing day after day after day, and all of a sudden, boom, that time's gone.
Yeah, and we don't appreciate experiences that we have, like going on trips when we're on autopilot like that. You know, sometimes we have to take a step back, look at the bigger picture of things, and think about how lucky we are to have experiences and opportunities that we have every day.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, the more present you are, the more you're actually living in the moment, and you actually remember what's happening. Like, you know, I'm I'm guilty of this. Eating all on my phone or eating while watching
Mhm.
something, and it's like I didn't even enjoy the meal necessarily, like a little bit here and there, but I wasn't focused and present on eating that meal. Or if you're out with your friends and if you're on your phone scrolling social media, like you're not there being present with them. You're scrolling social media and you're missing whatever's going on. And so I mean, that can happen with kids too. Like if you're sitting there watching TV with your kids, or you're sitting there and you're on your phone and they're off playing, it's like, go play with them. Like, you only get so much time with your kids. And it's like, yeah, you might be tired. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. It's been a long day at work. You want to chill. I get it. But in the future, you'll probably look back on that and be like, man, I wish I would have played with my kids more.
Or vice versa. It's when your kids want to do something and you don't want to. So what do? You hand them, an iPad or a phone with YouTube so that they be quiet and sit there, and they're missing out and just distracting themselves with videos, which is a bad habit for a kid to develop at a young age.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of goes both ways,
Yep.
really.
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves how lucky we are sometimes to, go to bed exhausted because we got to
hard
work
all
our butt
day,
off all
yeah.
day.
100%.
Go to bed exhausted because we played with our kids and
Yep.
spend time with our family, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on that?
That's it for me.
That's good.
So, and I'll throw the book recommendations in the comments, but actionable ideas on this. Start with a morning routine, 5 to 10 minutes of intention setting. Interrupt routine patterns, drive a different route, try a new hobby, change your workout style. A lot of people can relate to this. Once you drive the same route, and you maybe can experience this.
It's bad.
If you drive the same route day after day after day, no matter the length of it, you can not even recall like stopping at that stop sign, stopping at that stoplight. It's like, oh, how in the hell did I get to work? Like, you don't even remember because it's autopilot. It's just, you just go.
It is.
So
yeah, like it's 30-minute drive back to Ubly. I've done that so many times, like to get here and then to driving home at night. Like there's been times where I'm like, did I just miss the last 5 miles? Because it's straight. It's like if I just hold my steering wheel there, I'm not going anywhere. So I'm just like there and I completely zone out. It's so bad, but not so bad now.
The challenge for you guys would be for one day, write down everything you do and then ask how much of this was intentional and how much of it was on autopilot. So that's the last challenge. So the final takeaway, growth isn't just about what you start, it's about what you stop. Each of these habits limits potential, so letting go of them opens doors for success, happiness, and better health. So what's one thing that you're going to commit to stop doing in 2025? Let us know if you want. Write it down and see how it works for you. Just monitor how you feel, if you are moving toward your goals, and then just keep building on that. So, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, make sure you like and subscribe, share it with a friend or family member. That'll really help us out. Until the next one, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys soon.